Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of our Austin Crime Report. This one's kind of full. We got a number of things that we're going to run down. One of the most significant things, though, happened just this past weekend with the shooting that happened downtown Austin involving the Lit Lounge is what it's called. But the first thing that I just want to highlight is there were 4 people that were shot, but one of the most impressive things to me, and we talked about it in one of our previous episodes, was about our cast team. But I talked to some of the folks that were working and found out that cast was able to make first patient contact about 15 seconds after the call came in.
It's amazing. And their response time is typically under a minute. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, typically it's under a minute. There's even been times where the cast team has had negative response times where they hear something before it's ever made, dispatch, anyone's called, anything like that. They're on scene, they're taking care of it, they're handling it towards like a negative response time. But yeah, typically it's less than 2 minutes, less than a minute. In this case, they were on scene in 15 seconds, providing care, treating people, getting them, taken care of, transported, whatever is needed. And like, it is an incredible program that highlights why I think our homicide rate is not a lot higher than what it is, because we do get medical care to them so quickly. So shout out again to our cast team. Phenomenal work. It's a joint partnership between PD and EMS, and fire jumps in too every now and then, but it's primarily ran by our EMS partners and then by APD. So first of all, phenomenal that happened and pretty incredible, but it also highlighted a problem. Did it not, Juice?
It did. And just if you're not familiar with me, I just came to this team from the downtown area command, and I was probably the number 2 ranked person over that area. And so I would interact with a lot of the officers and businesses down on East 6th Street particular. All of our responses like CAST and all of the stuff that you seeing the police do every weekend, kind of involved in all of that. So just want to go back again. This was a shooting at Lit Lounge, and it happened on March the 30th. From the Fox News article, I think the owner, her name is Ann Tran. I've interacted with her in the past, and one of the statements she said is Lit Lounge has always prioritized safety above all else. Mm-hmm. And I find that kind of ironic because, we've had shootings there in the past. The last one that we had was like an officer involved shooting like right outside the doors in December. Mm. And so when you're saying this, that you're prioritizing safety, how did somebody get into your business with guns?
That would seem to be a problem.
Right. And this is something that we've talked about with a lot of the bar owners and managers along 6th Street is like, there's best practices out there. None of this is new. None of this is rocket science. If you want to make sure people aren't coming into your business with guns, you need to wand them or frisk them. Mm-hmm. And you also need to look at your clientele and determine what kind of safety measures you need to put in place or change so this doesn't keep happening. And another thing on a side note, I'm not trying to single out Lit Lounge, but in general, you shouldn't own after-hour bars as well. That have had shootings at them in the past, like Swing Hookah Lounge. That's been one of her prior enterprises. And, some of the other after-hour bars that our media talks about are operations that she's a part of. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say that she's, per se, prioritizing safety above all else.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good point because these after-hour bars are big problems, right? These after-hour lounges, whatever you want to call them, like they are major problems because oftentimes there's still alcohol service going on after hours when it's not supposed to be going on. And it, again, highlights the issue that we have with prosecutors where APD can work tirelessly to try to fix all of this and try to get it to where we're doing enforcement. But if you send it to the DA, to the county attorney, and they don't do anything about it, like, what else are we supposed to do? Like, there's just not much else that you can do. So APD works constantly to try to deal with all of this, but oftentimes there's no follow-on because no one else wants to support us in all of these.
Right. It's a broken system.
It's a broken system.
The only wheel that's spinning on the car is the police wheel.
Right. And it's getting us nowhere. Right. And these shootings are continuing to happen. Kind of on that, though, because, I know it came up where some bar, and I didn't see who all was talking about this, but some folks were talking about how they didn't like the fencing now and that they thought the fencing was contributing to this, to violent crime. somehow. Not quite sure the link there. And again, I don't know who was talking about this. I didn't go read that full article, but I know people had reached out saying that, people were talking about this.
I did see the article, and I thought that the link there from what the business manager that was speaking on it was saying is we're crowding people into a more condensed area. So there's going to be fights. There's going to be aggression between people as they're bumping into each other. But when I was watching the video, all they had to do was turn around, and there's no fence in that block range. So the
really
logic of
there.
the fence there doesn't apply.
That doesn't really apply there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different mindset than we've had in the past when you're dealing with the fencing being there, not being there, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, to me, all that it really gets the wheels turning for me is that it's not – I have a hard time imagining how it's the fence's problem. After-hour bars, bad management, whatever the case may be, lack of enforcement, lack of follow-through, all that seems to be much more likely to be a contributing factor versus where the fence is.
Right.
And so it would be great if we had more support because, for anyone that isn't aware, obviously there is a state law that says you can't have a firearm in a business that sells 51% or more. 51% or more of their sales comes from alcohol bars, right? They're all banned, which is pretty much all of 6th Street. It's illegal to have a gun inside of there. And even if you're a private business, you still have the right to deny it. And with that comes the responsibility of enforcing the rules that you're establishing at your own bar and making sure that you're doing things appropriately. So, it's this whole holistic thing that's got to change with it all. But these shootings are fortunately not hyper common, but they're not uncommon either. It's a persistent thing that we tend to see downtown.
Right. And we also focus on East 6th Street quite a bit, but just pointing out over the weekend there were 2 other shootings that turned into murders also, one the same day and one the next day on Monday, one off Bradshaw Drive and the other one off Harris Glen and Howard Lane. Yeah. And so this goes all around the city, and these problems are very prevalent. It's just that 6th Street gets all the attention usually.
Yeah, and the vast majority of homicides occur off 6th Street, and they occur outside other parts of the city.
Right, because we don't have these teams ready to go, equipped with fire and EMS and police, ready to provide life-saving measures immediately.
Yeah, you're just waiting on patrol.
Right, that's understaffed and taking several minutes to get to you when you need help.
Yeah, because patrol is still, the last update I saw, there's still 3 on patrol alone. There's 300 vacancies. So that's where all of our vacancies are pretty much held right now. And that obviously has a dramatic impact on things. And I was talking with someone earlier today about this, when people talk about, or they ask questions related to, well, how do we fix that? How do we solve that? Obviously, we believe, and I think the numbers are showing, the contract has a huge impact on that when we did come to an agreement because our attrition numbers have gone way down now. So we're on a much better track as far as attrition. But now we have the problem of we got to get people to want to come here, and that's kind of hard to do when if you're Googling places, you're like, oh, what's Austin crime like? And then you see articles where it's, people who have been charged with or convicted of deadly conduct, aggravated assault, all this other kind of stuff, and then they were freed or nothing happened or things were dismissed, and then they go off and murder somebody. It's kind of like, well, it seems like they don't really care about the work that you do there. So if you're looking to be an officer and to make a difference, it's not super encouraging to come to a place where DAs don't do anything about the cases that you give them. County attorneys don't do that, right. Or oftentimes judges ignore things. So the follow-on that happens after things leave our hands has an impact on recruiting, retention, morale, all that other kind of stuff too. So
sure. And
that's a big
that's
impact.
One thing that I would look at is, if an officer is assaulted in Austin and you talk to any officer here, what happens to those charges? Mm-hmm. And you talk to anybody, they're almost virtually all dismissed against those suspects. So, when you're arresting the same person that assaulted you or pointed a gun at you the next week, it's really a hit to morale. And I think that's a good segue to what Tyler wants to talk about.
Yeah, I was about to say, that was very well done, sir. Excellent. He queued that one up nicely.
It's like we're professionals or something at this. I don't know.
We're only pretending at this point.
We are pretending.
But it does. It does bring to light something that, Tyler, that you've had experience with. We're going to go back a little bit in time, back to stuff that happened in 2021. But there were just some recent developments with a known individual that APD has dealt with a number of different times.
Yes. So we brought up last week a subject who was harassing citizens out there, exposing himself, and then was arrested in those cases somewhere, went somewhere, and he was back out, and 2 days later was doing the same thing and was arrested again. So it's happening to citizens, like they're being assaulted, they're being victimized, but it also happens to officers, like Juice was talking about with officers being assaulted. Back in 2021, a Cap Metro bus camera caught a subject by the name of Zion Baptiste pointing a gun at officers who were on another call, just doing their job. And he pulls up in his car, and you see on camera, handgun comes out the car, pointing this loaded handgun at officers. Yeah. That case was then investigated. We figured out who he was, figured out the vehicle, did a search warrant. They got the gun, a gun that matched the description in the video. He was charged with ag assault on a PO back in 2021, 2 counts of that. Through the process, eventually those went away, but they kept deadly conduct on him. And so those were pending for a while. Then in 2023, he gets arrested again for resisting arrest. And then again, later on in 2023, he gets into a crash while he was drunk. So driving intoxicated, gets into a crash. Officers go and to arrest him, and he resists arrest again. He assaults the officers there by giving them some knee strikes during the arrest. And so he was arrested on assault on a PO, DWI, resisting arrest, and find out that just recently he was the cases had gone to the county attorney, and everything had pretty much been dismissed. All the stuff on police officers were dismissed. The resistings dismissed. The deadly conduct dismissed. The assault on PO was reduced down to interference, and he was given deferred adjudication, which basically means no punishment as long as you don't get in trouble again. And then everything was put onto the DWI, where he was given community supervision, which is basically probation.
And Christopher, do you have that Odyssey information pulled up for everybody?
Yeah, like you can go through and see, like there are 12 cases here, 12 cases listed, and every single one of them shows dismissed, deferred adjudication, no charges filed, transferred to the county attorney, no bill. Like it's absolutely nothing has happened, even though, and you can see it on the video, he's pointing and waving a gun out at officers.
Yeah, and they just merge that in with the DWI at the same time.
We'll take care of it. It's fine.
And it's like all these things, these violent things, assaults on a police officer. If someone's willing to assault a police officer and resist arrest, they're also doing that to citizens in the community.
Yeah.
And they're going to be suspects of other things. And because if they're willing to do it to a cop, they're going to do it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so the officers are trying their best. We make charges. We do all this stuff. We put them in jail to get them off the street, and it's just slap on the wrist for serious offenses.
And all of this is, and it's because it's worth highlighting, all of this is since 2021. 2021, in the last 4 years, this is everything that has happened. And there is zero accountability that is effectively happening. And I mean, the KXAN article came out yesterday, I believe, talking about how, with the DA in particular, there have been hundreds of cases where there's serious felonies that have been dismissed because of the DA's poor choices or lack of attentiveness, maybe we'll call it, where you're not meeting deadlines, you're not prosecuting things, you're not doing all this other kind of stuff. But again, what you just said, I think is one of the most important parts, where you have officers that are out there that are doing the work, they're getting assaulted, they're getting threatened, they're having guns pointed at them, at times they're getting shot at. And then the people that are involved in this, there's no accountability. So what does it do? It emboldens them, right? Like there is no incentive to not commit crime, right? To abide by the law if nothing is going to happen to them. And we saw it last weekend is when they had the protest over at Tesla. And there was a message that went out. There was a tweet that I saw that went out where people were saying, oh, they don't do anything about assault in Travis County. If you hit somebody, need to do something, like it'll be fine. We're literally getting to the point now where people are promoting active violence because they know nothing is going to happen here in Travis County.
Right. And we need more exposure on some of these cases like this, where cases are just dismissed. I don't know why the media is not able to pick it up, but if anybody's listening, if you want to look at some of this information on the website, it's odysseyweb.traviscounty.tx.gov, and you can type in anybody's name and see if they were released, if they were charged with something, if they were sentenced, and go from there. It's kind of a fun game every day to open up the newspaper and type in the name of the suspect that did a robbery or a murder and see that nothing was done, for their last 10 cases as shown here.
Fun/depressing. It's not usually not a very cheerful read, but there's a very common theme that you can usually find in all of these cases.
And I say that with sarcasm too.
I know. I just figured I'd highlight it for you too. But no, it's extremely disappointing that we see this kind of stuff happening, and it's kind of indicative of a problem that we have. So, lots of things that are going on. I just wanted to highlight some of these cases, but this is just scratching the surface. Is really what it is. Like, these are two higher profile ones that happened just recently or that had updates recently. But the reality is, like, these are not anomalies. This is the norm. This is what happens all the time. So, and to that end, one of the things that detectives are currently asking for help in is something that happened back earlier, last month now, on March 6th. That happened up in the 5500 block of Burnett Road over at the Toy Joy, where a suspect walked in, stole several boxes of Legos, and then threatened to shoot the employee when he was doing it. So that's a robbery, which is it's bizarre that these are the types of things that happen. You walk into a toy store, stealing Legos, and you threaten to shoot people. And that's these are the kind of cases that are happening that are getting dismissed, that are getting pled out to nothing, that are getting pled down, like whatever. Like, this is the stuff that we're dealing with. So anyway, sorry, that was a sidetrack.
And Christopher has a picture of the suspect from that robbery up on the screen for everybody to see. And again, he's a Middle Eastern male, 30 to 40 years of age, 5'7" tall, medium build, black hair, full beard, and last seen wearing a black mid-length leather jacket, black jeans, and black shoes. Probably lives in the area. A lot of crimes, when they happen, are caused by people that are familiar with it. So,
yep. If you saw anything, heard anything, have any tips, info, and any information that could lead to this individual's arrest or identification, please contact either our robbery unit, 974-5092, or always remember, we like to highlight it, that the Capital Area Crime Stoppers also has an anonymous tip line that you can do. It's 472-TIPS, 512-472-8477. And on that note, with Crime Stoppers, they always highlight who the wanted person of the week. They call it Wanted Wednesday, but the person this week is Servando Cruz Jr., and he has a outstanding felony warrant for aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. Again, very similar to the one that we were just talking about, but he's a 19-year-old male, about 5 foot, 550 pounds. On Crime Stoppers website and here on the video, you'll be able to see the picture of him. But again, they will offer up to $1,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest.
And again, we say it every time, but just remember, this is an armed individual, dangerous person. So don't try to apprehend him yourself. Just if you have information that will lead officers to his arrest, just call it into Crime Stoppers.
Yep. And then the last thing that we want to do is we want to highlight our employees of the week. We've got this week for APD. Our APD financial manager is for over purchasing is Miss Armstrong. She was nominated this last week for a lot of good work that she does. She helps with a lot of the purchasing stuff for the department. She's extremely helpful. She's been very beneficial to a lot of units, goes above and beyond to try to help people out, make sure that needs are met. So very happy to see that her work got highlighted. For all that she's been doing. She's been with the department for a little while now, and so she's been working hard and very much appreciate everything that she does. And then I also, on the kind of on the sworn side, I guess, I got a email related to a couple of our mounted guys that were out over in Manor. They were at a school doing a presentation when the school had to go on a lockdown because of an incident that happened nearby, and they immediately, cops being cops, sprung into action. Were trying to help, offering to help, trying to take care of whatever the kids needed, the school needed. And so we got a note over from Manor PD, just very much appreciating everything that they do. So it just goes to show that we have great people in the department that even when they're not here, they're always in that mindset and ready to help our neighboring agencies or wherever they're at. So shout out to our mounted unit for all the great work that they're doing. That's right. Juice loves the horsies. Yeah. So, All right, y'all. That's all that we got for you this week. We appreciate it. As always, feel free to send us ideas, things that you want to hear about. But we just appreciate you listening in with us. So till next time, stay safe, stay alert, and stay tuned.